to the State of Missoula meeting. Here in Missoula, we have, I think, a great opportunity to have information regarding what's going on in our county and in our city, and have an opportunity also to ask some questions, and I think it's going to be a great afternoon. I do want to introduce the head table. We have Jim Leiter, who's the landfill manager of BFI. He is also the chairman of the Community Affairs Committee for the Chamber of Commerce, who organizes this event each year, so I want to thank him for that. And Jim will have a few comments regarding the format and agenda for our meeting today. To my right is Commissioner Bill Carey, and I'll introduce him a little bit more when it's his opportunity to speak. And also to my left, Mayor Kadis, and I'll also introduce him when it's his time to speak. So what I'd like to do first is ask Jim Leiter to share with you kind of how this meeting progresses, so we all have an understanding of the format that we'll be following today. So Jim, would you do that for us, please?
Thank you all for coming today. We're going to have a couple of presentations. The mayor and the commissioner will each give a 20-minute presentation, followed by a question and answer period. And I'd like to ask that as they are speaking, or as you've thought of questions to have for them, if you try to keep your questions concise and to the point. These guys are the guys who are here to speak today. We want to ask them questions, so if you can keep your questions short, that would be good. We'll give them each a minute to answer, or if you have a question that you want to direct to a particular individual, one of the two, please make that clear when you ask your question. There will be 2 microphones being circulated through the audience during the question and answer period, and just hold your hand up and somebody with a microphone will find you, and then we'll call upon you for your question. At the end of the question and answer period, we'll have Bob do a little summary and a close, and please feel free to participate fully. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Jim. I also want to recognize at the table right in front of us, Kim Luttrell, our CEO of the Chamber, and with her is Mr. Gary Bakke, and he is the timekeeper, so when he's putting up those little cards, that means that somebody has extended their time a little bit on what was allotted, so appreciate that. I'd like to begin by introducing Mayor Mike Kadis. Mike has been the mayor of Missoula since 1996. He's a former member of the Montana House of Representatives, where he served for 14 years. Mr. Kadis has taught economics as an adjunct faculty member at the University of Montana, and he has also worked as a carpenter for several years and operated his own construction business. Mike currently serves as the president of the board of directors of the Montana League of Cities and Towns, and is also a member of the Missoula Area Economic Development Corporation board of directors. With great pleasure, I'd introduce Mike Kadis. Mike.
Thank you, Bob. Well, this will be interesting. I asked to be able to do a PowerPoint this year, and hopefully I won't live to regret that. As you know, if you know me, we have my speechwriters working on this for months on end, and then we do about 5 practice sessions in the week before the speech, and then on the night before I stay up late and rewrite it all. Let me start with, I'm going to be talking about technology a little bit today, and this is a handy little device that I started using, I found out about 2 years ago. And there are 2 functions that I think are particularly important about these things. With mine, one of them is if you press function and then 8, it turns it to vibe. And that's kind of, when that happens, it feels like the mouse that was in your pocket just woke up and is ready for action. Or the other function that I think is really important is the one that says power. And you can turn it off with that. And that's generally a good thing. It will save you the embarrassment of waking up your dozing seatmates in about 15 minutes when you get a version of Pachelbel's Canon or Jingle Bells or whatever it is you have on there. How many of you have these? It's okay. You can It's a 12-step program we'll be working on here. I want to do some introductions. Council members, first of all, Council President Jack Reedy apologizes. He couldn't be here. He had to attend a funeral. But I notice, and I'm going to miss someone, I'm sure. I see Scott Morgan, Ed Childers, Lois Herbig. You all should stand up. Jerry Ballas, Jerry, Clayton Floyd, I thought I saw over here. And who have I missed? John Torma. Okay. Anyone else? All right. We've got half of you. And then I also wanted to introduce our Chief Administrative Officer, Janet Stevens, our Chief of Police, Bob Weaver, and then I wanted to also introduce Linda Haig, our Communications Director, who has helped me quite a bit with getting this thing together, along with several of our other staff. I also have a special introduction. Martha Newell has been my partner in life and the mother of our 2 children, and she puts up with a lot, and so Martha, she usually doesn't come to these things for good reason, but she has shown her sense and sensibility over the years. But maybe if Martha, you'd stand up. And so now I really have to be on good behavior. In the last couple of weekends, we've been able to do a little traveling, skiing mostly, and I have 2 young sons, a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old. And as you might imagine, politics and policy and politicians is kind of part of the discussion in our household. And so I just thought I'd start with a couple of thoughts that kind of come from a stream of consciousness of a 4-year-old or a 4th grade boy. As we're driving down the road, Papa, what does Judy Martz do? And and then before I can finish my thought, he says, I mean, who takes care of her who takes her job in case someone shoots her? And then about 5 minutes later, Dad, does Dick Cheney have one of those heart thermometers? So it's an interesting, it takes me back to kind of how a lot of us think a lot of the time, and kind of how we get our news. And it's just in snippets and pieces, and it doesn't always connect together in a real linear way. And I think that there's a lot of 4th grade boys in a lot of us. And you'll probably find quite a bit of that in this speech. I'm going to focus on 3 main things today: our economy, our growth, and our environment. Our economy. I've got a number of graphs, and if we could start with that, Linda. To begin with, these are put together by Larry Swanson at the O'Connor Center for the Rocky Mountain West. He heads a project called the Regional Economics Assessment Database. And the key to this database is that it's multi-county, city-centered. I want to emphasize city-centered and sub-state. For Missoula, the Reed District is Ravalli, Mineral, Lake, and Granite counties. And what this first graph shows is what's happened with population in these different in these regions within the state. And clearly you see what's happened to the Missoula region, the Yellowstone region or Billings, Bozeman and Helena are also growing. Great Falls, Cascade County is flat, and Butte is flat. Let's go on to the next one. We see a very similar picture when we look at personal income growth. Same kind of thing. Personal income growth is actually following population. The next one shows employment growth. And again, the same thing. Very similar pattern. The next one shows some really stark differences. This is change over 20 years. And what it shows you is the purple lines are not city regions anymore. They're the centers. That's Missoula County, Yellowstone County, Cascade County. The red ones are the areas surrounding those city centers. So for us, it would be Ravalli, Lake, Granite, and Mineral. And a lot is happening here. There's some major changes that are going on. It shows you that economic action and economic viability and vitality is centered around cities. We go to the next one. In addition to that, if we compare ourselves how we're doing compared to other cities across the nation, and we're always criticized and we're always fretting over that we are a low-income state, low personal income state. But if you compare where we are compared to similar-sized places, we're not that far out of whack. Missoula is right in there with a lot of other places the same size. Where Montana is behind is when it comes to large metropolitan areas. Large metropolitan areas are where the higher incomes are. We do not have a Salt Lake City, a Seattle, even a Spokane, a Boise, a Denver, and that's one of the key reasons Montana has such low incomes as a state compared to others. But it's not as bad as we think. We are doing reasonably well compared to other places our size, particularly when it comes to cities. Move to the next one. Go ahead, Linda. Sector changes. Whoops. Do that about 3 times and have everybody stand up and turn around. So what's been changing within our economy? And the top line is services, the next line is retail trade, and then everything else is down below that. And we have this view of our economy that we have to produce commodities and send them out someplace else and get money back in, and that's the heart of our economy. And this kind of information says, no, that's really not what's going on. And we also have this perception in our economy that services are all low-paying. Well, the highest growing services that we have in Missoula are healthcare, legal, business, those types of services. They are all pretty well paying. This is a huge trend, and we need to acknowledge this and take advantage of it, both as a community and as a state. We have a hard time doing that. Next slide, please. This is the same information except nationally. Guess what? Exactly the same thing is happening. Manufacturing and commodity production have been flat when it comes to employment. And these numbers are essentially, the graphs look just about the same when you look at income. It's services that are growing, retail trade, and I'll point just out of self-interest one other thing. See the yellow line? Guess what that is? Local government. Let's go back to the last slide. See the yellow line in Montana? Now, I don't know, but maybe local government has something to do with the bigger picture. Okay, let's go forward. With respect to growth, the green area is city limits in 1960. We covered about 8 square miles and we were 27,000 people. Today, the brown outline line is what our city limits are today. And if you subtract out the open space, we're about 20 square miles now and about 57,000 square people. 57,000 square people. I'm glad you laughed at it, you know. It says something about us, doesn't it? The point here, if we keep growing the way we've been growing, what's going to happen in 2040 is that we will be about 50 square miles. And if we're 50 square miles, we are going to go the city of Missoula, the urban area, maybe it won't be the city, but we will go well beyond Lolo, we will go all the way to Bonner, and we'll go well beyond the Frenchtown Mill. That just isn't going to work very well. We have to grow smarter than that, and that means we're going to have to be denser in terms of the number of people per square mile, not in terms of mental activities, of course. One of the great things about our city is that it has some very distinct boundaries. We have Mount Sentinel and Mount Jumbo, we have the South Hills, we have the North Hills. And boundaries make great cities. You see it with rivers and mountains and oceans. They're really important. But it also means that we only really have one direction to grow, and that's to the west. And we really need to take care of how we grow. I used 40 years as an increment here because I'm 46. I was 6 years old in 1960. No, I was 4 years old in 1960. I knew something was wrong there. I was really an advanced kid, you know. But I don't think that if we grow to 50 square miles, you know, with a population of 100 to 120,000, that's going to be sustainable. It just won't work. We will spread ourselves out, and we'll destroy much of what it is that we like about Montana, that we like about our home today, which has to do with some open spaces, among other things. Let's go to new construction. This is just the city of Missoula, but you can see we've had pretty steady new construction at, you know, really 300 units or better. And we had one big spike in the early 90s, and we're heading into another one. The last column is estimated for this year, but based on where we are today compared to last year, we're going to have a lot of new construction. Next one, please. No, the other way. There you go. Median sales price. In 1990, the average median sales price was $65,000. Today, it's $150,000. That's huge. Now, there are two things that are going on there. One is, for up to about $100,000, you couldn't build new houses for less than that. But now we're past that point, and it's really a function of demand outstripping supply. We can't build houses fast enough. And if we're not careful, we will end up like a lot of other places in the West, and I think of a lot of resort communities like Sun Valley and Jackson, where median sales price is $1 million, or even Boulder, where median sales price is around $300,000. And I think if we do that, we have lost something really valuable in our community. One of the things that makes Missoula so great is everybody can live here. There's a wide mix of incomes. And if we become a community of wealthy elites, and all of the people who take care of us have to drive in from 20 miles, then we will be a very different place, and I don't think we will be nearly as nice a place as we are today. We have some choices. I think that there are three basic ways of dealing with the problems of growth. One, we can solve the growth problem by just getting ugly. If we just let it go and become a bunch of trailer courts or lots of traffic congestion, people will just decide not to come here. We can stay nice by limiting growth, and we'll end up with the scenario I just described. We'll start looking like a resort community in any number of ways. The one I dislike the most is with the just high-income people. Or we can plan and try to build neighborhoods and add density. We have to figure out how to add density. Our best neighborhoods are built at 4 to 6 dwelling units per acre. Most of the development we've done in the last 20 years has been at 2 dwelling units per acre. We need to reverse that trend. We have to get back to 4 to 6 dwelling units per acre. That is not high density. That in most places, most large metropolitan areas, that's low to medium density. We call it medium to high density, but we need to find ways to get back to that. And a lot of that has to do with creating good examples and giving comfort to our neighborhoods so that they can see that that's okay, that's a livable space. If we don't, we are going to sprawl to 50 square miles in the next 40 years. Our environment. We have a number of, we have, as a community, have dealt with water quality, or air quality issues over the years, and I think we've done pretty well there, and we will always have to deal with that. Most recently, we've really struggled with water quality. The city is has signed a voluntary nutrient reduction program agreement with the state and several other entities, including Stone Smurfit. It's not voluntary. We have to do it. And it has to do mostly with the amount of nutrients that get into the river and into the aquifer, nitrogen and phosphorus. We're spending as a community about $18 million retrofitting our wastewater treatment plant. That's to deal with that problem. We're also in a major controversy. Well, the way we have grown in the past is we have developed homes in areas like the Slant Street neighborhood on cesspools and septic pits, and then after those homes are there, we find out we got a water quality problem and we come in and sewer it. But even areas as close to the downtown as the Slant Street neighborhood, essentially all of the area south of the river was built on cesspits. And then, after we realized we had a problem, we put the sewer in. We don't do that anymore, but we still have areas that were developed under that standard, and we need to transition them onto the wastewater treatment plant. We're in a big controversy right now over the rattlesnake. Only 1/3 of the rattlesnake is unsewered. These two maps show the red dots on the left show seepage pits, mostly on quarter-acre lots, and the ones on the right show the seepage pits, and the red dots on the left show failures. And these are the areas we're targeting with this SID. Every place else in the city essentially is sewered. Particularly areas that have a much harder time paying for it. East Reserve, East Missoula is going to be on the sewer. They're paying for it. I know it's expensive, but as a community, it's something we have to do for all of us. It's not a decision that just affects the water in your own backyard. It affects the water for all of us. If we don't do this, then collectively we will pay even more in the long run, because we will have to do even more upgrades to our wastewater treatment plant that everybody who is on sewer will end up paying for. Some current issues. The Civic Stadium. As you know, I've been pretty supportive of this. I think given the difficulties that have faced the stadium, the fall of the stock market, September 11th, a 2-year delay because of a lawsuit, an expensive site because we want them to build it downtown, and they've run into a lot of additional costs because of the site, and the inflation that comes with delay. I think there is a legitimate reason for the city to put up an extra $1 million to try to get this project done, and I think we can get it done. The redevelopment agency in the 1st District essentially will expire in 2 years. We have $6 million that is available for redevelopment. This is a classic redevelopment project. This is eliminating blight and can serve as the anchor for redeveloping the whole Champion area. We need to move forward and make this a high priority and get it done. We can, and we can get the Osprey into a field this summer. Safeway. We're in negotiations on that. Hopefully in a couple of weeks we'll have it fixed. Impact fees. It's a controversial issue, but the bottom line is, now since we started early, do I get a few extra minutes? The bottom line on impact fees, if we don't, impact fees are just for infrastructure. They're based on infrastructure, and the cost of infrastructure that new development is passing on to the existing people, the existing community. If we don't develop some sort of impact fee schedules, and you only end up doing it in places that are cities usually, and places that are growing, if we don't do it, what it's going to mean is we'll either have reduced services or we'll have higher taxes. I mean, there really are, those are the only two choices. We need to move forward with them. We need to have a frank discussion about what the appropriate level is. Give me a couple of minutes here, Gary. But we do need to move forward with them. The council is working on many zoning and density issues. We will be doing a fee-for-service study where we're looking at our costs, our indirect costs, and we'll be looking at fees that haven't been adjusted for 10 and sometimes 20 years. And so you will be feeling the brunt of that, and that has to do with the fact that We run an organization with 400 employees.